in this world, everything changes, right? Our health, our finances, our relationships, they all change. But the one thing that doesn't is God. God never changes. In fact, his unchanging nature gives us security in all the other attributes we see. Because God his faithfulness will never change. His love for us will never change. His goodness will never change. His holiness, his righteousness, all of those things we can trust will remain the same because God is unchanging. God made a promise to Abraham, and he promised him that he would become a great nation, that he would be the father of many, that he would have children as numerous as the stars in the sky. And we see in Malachi that God, because of his unchanging nature, continued to fulfill that promise through the generations. Now, if you remember, the Israelites, after they were rescued from Egypt, they didn't just agree with God and be grateful all the time. They grumbled and they sinned against him often. And we see that through the Old Testament, how often the Israelites would grumble against God and would sin against God and maybe turn to idols and turn to others. But God spared a remnant because of his promise to Abraham. In Malachi 3:6 we see, because God's saying, because I, Yahweh, have not changed, you descendants of Jacob have not been destroyed. Because he hasn't changed, because he promised and he is unchanging. He kept that promise. And we can trust him to keep those promises he made to us as well. And we can trust every other attribute because God is unchanging. The fourth attribute I wanted to look at was God is creator or creative. I often visit a dear friend, and she's in an assisted living facility, and she's usually pretty upbeat, but this particular time I visited her, she seemed a little bit melancholy. And as I was visiting with her, she was talking a lot about the past and the things that she missed in the past, the things that she used to be able to do, how helpful she used to be, how she could attend church then and she couldn't now. She was beginning to feel purposeless and worthless. And that's a difficult place to be. But we never have to feel that way. Even if we can't do the things that we used to be able to do. We don't ever have to feel that way because God created us, imago Dei, in his image. And when we're created in God's image, we reflect him to others. We reflect his glory. We reflect his character. Even if all we can do is smile and pray. And I don't mean that as in prayer is nothing, prayer is everything. But even if that's all we have the ability to do, and even if we can't do either of those, created imago Dei, created in God's image, gives us worth as his children, and gives us value, and gives us purpose, until he takes us home. As a potter that forms clay, the potter throws a pot with a purpose in mind, and God creates each of us with a purpose in mind. Isaiah 64:8 says it like this. Yet, Lord, you are our Father. We are the clay, and you are our potter. We all are the work of your hands. And as a work of his hands, he gives us purpose, and more important, he stamps us with him. We reflect his glory. We reflect who he is. As long as we have breath, we have purpose and worth.